From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, June the 5th, 2024. We open with an attack in northern Israel that has reportedly left some 11 people injured, including one critically. The IDF said launches from the territory of Lebanon were detected that fell in the Horfesh region. No sirens were sounded to warn of the incoming fire, and the IDF said it is investigating why that is. The Times of Israel said that according to initial assessments, at least one explosive-laden drone hit the area, wounding the 11 people. Terror group Hezbollah reportedly claiming responsibility. The IDF continues to defend its border with Lebanon against Hezbollah. Earlier today, several rockets were fired by Hezbollah at northern Israel, and the IDF also shared earlier today that 2 suspicious aerial targets from Lebanon were intercepted. And fighting continues in Gaza, with Israeli troops battling terror group Hamas, eliminating Hamas terrorists, and destroying terror infrastructure, including, it's said today, a significant terror tunnel in Rafah. On Monday, the IDF announced the deaths of 4 hostages who were kidnapped by terror group Hamas during the October 7th massacre and then killed in captivity in Gaza, and of the death of an Israeli who was believed to be held hostage but was in fact murdered by terrorists on October the 7th. IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari shared more.
Today we shared the devastating news with the families of 85-year-old Amiram Cooper, one of the founders of Kibbutz Nir Oz, 80-year-old Chaim Perry from Kibbutz Nir Oz, 80-year-old Yoram Metzger from Kibbutz Nir Oz, and 51-year-old Israeli and British citizen Dolev Yehud from Kibbutz Nadav Popelwell from Kibbutz Nirim. That their loved ones were killed a few months ago during Hamas captivity in Gaza, and their bodies are still being held by Hamas. We assess that the 4 of them were killed while together in the area of Khan Yunis during our operation there against Hamas. We also informed the family of Dolev Yehud, a paramedic who left his home on October 7th to save lives. He left his home to save lives. He left behind him his woman, his wife, pregnant, and his 3 children in the shelter. He left them to save lives, and he was murdered by Hamas, and we revealed the remains of the body. Our hearts go out to their families. We are sorry we couldn't save them in time.
The wife of Dolev gave birth to their 4th child, a daughter, on October the 16th, and Dolev's sister, Arbel, remains among the over 120 hostages still held in Gaza, now for 243 days. Meanwhile, talks to work towards an agreement with Hamas that would see the release of the hostages continue. The Times of Israel reports that Director of the CIA, William Burns, and White House Coordinator for the Middle East, Brett McGurk, left Washington yesterday for meetings in Doha and Cairo to try and advance a proposal that was laid out on Friday by U.S. President Joe Biden. The president said the new proposal from Israel was submitted to Hamas via Qatar. Biden called it a roadmap to an enduring ceasefire and the release of all hostages. The president said the first phase of the 3-phased agreement would last for 6 weeks and include a full and complete ceasefire, a withdrawal of Israeli forces from all populated areas of Gaza, a release of a number of hostages, including women, the elderly, the wounded, in exchange for the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, as well as the return of some remains of hostages. Biden said Palestinian civilians would return to their homes in Gaza and humanitarian assistance would surge. Phase 2 would include the release of all remaining living hostages, including male soldiers. Israeli forces would withdraw from Gaza, and the president said as long as Hamas lives up to its commitments A temporary ceasefire would become, in the words of the Israeli proposal, the cessation of hostilities permanently. Phase 3 would see the start of a major reconstruction of Gaza, and any final remains of hostages who have been killed would be returned to their families. President Biden said the onus was now on Hamas to take the deal.
This is truly a decisive moment. Israel has made their proposal. Hamas says it wants a ceasefire. This deal is an opportunity to prove whether they really mean it. Hamas needs to take the deal. For months, people all over the world have called for a ceasefire. Now it's time to raise your voices and demand that Hamas come to the table, agrees to this deal, and end this war that they began.
The leaders of the G7, which includes the United States, as well as Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the UK, endorsed the Israeli proposal, writing, "We call on Hamas to accept this deal that Israel is ready to move forward with, and we urge countries with influence over Hamas to help ensure that it does so." A number of airlines will be back to their regular service to and from Israel in the coming days after halting flights after the October 7th massacre and after Iran's massive attack on Israel in April. The Times of Israel reports that United Airlines is set to resume flights to Israel tomorrow, Thursday, and Delta Airlines on Friday. American Airlines flights to Israel remain suspended until the end of October. Air Canada recently extended its suspension until August. The Israel Parade, Israel Day on 5th, took place this past Sunday in New York City, where, according to the JCRC of New York, who organized the event, 100,000 marchers and 25,000 spectators were on hand. A record-breaking number of people who joined together to bring the hostages home and show their love for Israel. The plight of the hostages was front and center at the parade, with over 80 hostage families who led the march. New York Governor Kathy Hochul and New York City Mayor Eric Adams were also in attendance on Sunday, as was Israeli singer Eden Golan, who represented Israel proudly at the Eurovision last month, all joining together at the toned-down event in a staunch and proud display of support and solidarity with the people of Israel, and with the unified call to bring them home. Well, today marks Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, celebrating the reunification of the city in 1967 during the Six-Day War. And we have special programming for you here on JBS for tonight, Wednesday, June the 5th. First at 7 o'clock, JBS strategic analyst David Harris is joined in conversation by Shahar Azani on defending Israel. And then at 7:30 on Unpacked, it's the story of the Six-Day War. At 8, we hear from 10 residents of Jerusalem in a documentary shot over a 5-year period. At 8:45, explore Jerusalem's Mahane Yehuda open-air market with tour guide and Jewish food researcher Joel Haber. At 9, Yossi Klein Halevi is on L'chaim. At 10:30, it's an encore of this newscast, and coming up next, it's Thinking Out Loud. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, June the 5th, 2024. I'm Teisha Bader. Am Yisrael Chai.